Mississippi, one of the areas absolutely struggling to come to terms with a lot of damage, and that's where meteorologist Mike Seidel is. He's in the town of Bassfield. Mike, what are you seeing right now, and what stands out to you? Is it what looks like you are standing on the slab of what was somebody's home?
Actually, this was a restaurant. This was Mama D's Cafe, Chris, here in Bassfield, outside of town of Bassfield. About 215 people, so very rural south central Mississippi. And this is where 3 of the 11 folks in Mississippi lost their lives. They were found back here. And you can imagine the force of the wind. This is a cinder block building. And, you know, Doppler radar indicated that this first violent tornado of 2 that went through the area in about 45 minutes had winds measured by the radar of 170 to 205 miles an hour. So that's easily EF-4, maybe low-end EF-5 damage. Weather Service has not been out here yet, but those fine folks from the Weather Service in Jackson, they did a heck of a job yesterday and last night. They're out doing surveys. I got 3 crews out in the area. But the cafe is gone. You look down the road here, and destruction. Cars flipped. I found out there was a gentleman in this car. He's in the hospital with broken ribs and broken bones. Down the road, we talked to a grandmother. Her daughter and 2 grandchildren were in a mobile home that flipped over. The kids are in the hospital, but they're going to be okay, thankfully, and everything else can be replaced. But you can see the scope of the damage as this tornado came through here about 4:30 yesterday afternoon. They had about a 10-minute warning. The watch was out long ahead of that. And after that one, we had another one, another strong tornado and another tornado emergency through some of these same counties. Lawrence County just to our west, and here in Jefferson Davis County. Over here, there's cows out there somewhere. I talked to the owner of the farm. He's got about 25 head of cattle, and some of them are somewhere in the woods. I went in there not too far in, but I mean, it's just stands of pine trees. There's some hardwoods, but look how the trees are being sheared off. And another good story to hear is the families that live down this road across the street. They just got this open. Some 5, 6 volunteers came out with bobcats, bulldozers, and chainsaws. And, you know, we're thinking, where are the homes? We haven't been able to see them on the drones, but that road right there goes back into the woods, and the 5 homes are 1.5 miles down the road. So they are living, I mean, they are living with nature. Fortunately, everybody in those 5 homes is fine. In fact, the family we talked to, the 5 of them did the right thing. They got into the bathroom and the bathtub, and they're okay. Some of them actually climbed and crawled and walked out yesterday. Boy, it's not that easy. There's just trees down everywhere. So amongst the bad news here at Mama D's, Chris, some good news out of here in Bassfield, Mississippi, about a half an hour north and west of Laurel, Mississippi. And, you know, we've had over 40 tornadoes reported, Chris, and I wouldn't be surprised if the 2 that went through this area were the 2 strongest, or 2 of the strongest that we saw on Easter Sunday. Chris?
And Mike, as we're looking down on you on that slab of what used to be a restaurant and seeing the cars off behind you as well, as a reminder of the violent nature of this, is it possible for you to determine how close the 2 tornadoes came, or do they go pretty much over the exact same areas? So was that even something that you could tell from driving around as he's been there?
No, but I've seen the tracks mapped out based on the radar signatures. And the first one, this one here, was a little south of the track of the second one, which is a little farther north. That came in about 45 minutes later. That's the one that hit Prentice and caused a lot of damage. And that is about 6 or 7 miles, roughly, by driving off to our north and northwest. So they weren't right on top of each other. But as I mentioned, I mean, how often do you get 2 tornado emergencies in the same counties in 45 minutes apart? I mean, I don't think anybody's ever seen that happen. The other thing is, we saw the stat from Greg Diamond, 141 tornado warnings issued by Weather Service offices between 7 a.m. Sunday and 7 a.m. this morning. That's the most tornado warnings issued in just over 12 years. So just a very active day yesterday, and the death toll continues to rise as we deal with tornado watches now all the way into D.C., Baltimore, and Philadelphia. Chris?
All right, meteorologist Mike Seidel, we appreciate that report and the perspective there. First, we start with meteorologist Mike Seidel in Mississippi. Both areas hit hard by deadly Easter Sunday tornadoes.
Of the more than 36 tornadoes reported since early Easter Sunday morning, two of the strongest likely hit right here in south central Mississippi. We're here in Jefferson Davis County, just outside of the town of Bassfield, about a half an hour northwest of Laurel, Mississippi. This county had 2 tornado emergencies in 45 minutes. That is really almost unheard of. 2 violent long-track tornadoes coming through this area. This is the first one that hit, and this is what happened. This is Mama D's Cafe. It was Mama D's Cafe. It's completely wiped off its foundation. All we can see is a big pile of cinder blocks back here, and unfortunately, out of the at least 11 deaths in Mississippi from yesterday's outbreak, 3 of them were right here at Mama D's. Just nothing left of the structure, and Doppler radar estimated the winds at one point 170 to 205 miles an hour, so that's easily EF-4 damage. Looking down the road here, we talked to one grandmother earlier. Her daughter and 2 grandchildren were down there in a mobile home. It completely flipped over. The kids are in the hospital, but they're going to be okay, thankfully. But everybody else we've talked to down this road here is in good shape. Although the homes are damaged, they can be replaced. But look at the trees, the pine trees, even some hardwoods, just stands of trees just shredded, some of them almost to the bottom. And we're seeing this all over the area as this tornado raced through here about 4:15 to 4:20. They had about an 8 to 10 minute warning in this part of the county. And the other thing we noticed this morning, we saw 4 or 5 guys clearing out a road across the street. We're trying to figure out what's down at the end of the road. Well, the end of the road is 1.5 miles away, and at the other end there are 5 homes. Everybody's fine. We talked to one family, and they did the right thing. All 5 of them huddled in the bathroom, in the bathtub. They came out without a scratch. A few folks actually crawled out yesterday, but it's going to be a long time before they can get the power back on. In fact, power company crews today were out here trying to figure out where the power poles were on this street outside Bassfield. So a very dangerous day yesterday. Doppler radar indicated that some of the debris here was thrown 20 to 30,000 feet into the atmosphere. Can you imagine that? And we had 2 strong, long-track tornadoes come across these same areas in south central Mississippi in less than an hour. Just amazing stuff. I'm meteorologist Mike Seidel, the Weather Channel.
That's where we find our very own meteorologist, Mike Seidel from Bassfield, Mississippi. And Mike, boy, I'm looking at the canopy of trees, and basically they're cut in half, if not just blown over completely. Just amazing to see that, and homes that have left their foundation.
Yeah, so you mentioned the 40 tornadoes so far, and the 2 that went through this area, 2 supercell violent tornadoes, one and then another about 45 minutes apart. 2 tornado emergencies. That's really unheard of, and these may end up to be the 2 strongest tornadoes of the entire outbreak. We'll have to see what they end up surveying here and around the southeast and even into the mid-Atlantic now. Tornado watch up for Philly, D.C., and Baltimore until 6 p.m. Let me show you via drone what we're looking at. I'm right in front of Mama D's Cafe, and as you can see, all we have left is a concrete slab. That is it. And it's hard to figure out where the building is, but you can see piles of cinder blocks back here, and that's really it. And this is where we had 3 of the 11 fatalities here in Mississippi yesterday, right here at this cafe. It was not open, but there were some folks in the front. We look over here, flipped over cars. Down the road, we've got a mobile home, and I talked to the grandmother of the daughter and the couple of grandchildren that are in there. They got flipped over. Fortunately, the kids are okay, but they're in the hospital recovering. They're going to be fine. But just a total denuding of the landscape here. This tornado just blew up near Macomb as the cap in the atmosphere went away, and it was like a nuclear explosion, like a bomb went off. And Doppler radar estimated the winds at one point between 170 and 205 miles an hour. So that's EF-4, maybe low end EF-5 on the wind scale. We'll see what the Weather Service decides. Now we spin around and look at the trees down over here. Now, what we're hearing from one of the farmers out here, he's got about 25 head of cattle over here, and some of them he can't locate. He's assuming they're somewhere in the woods, and just stands of trees. And then across the way, we've got a crew over there cutting down trees. There's a road that goes 1.5 miles back into the woods to 5 homes. Everybody's okay. Some people crawled out yesterday, but we've talked to some of the folks. They're all okay. And one family of 5, Alex, did what they were supposed to do. They went to the bathroom and the bathtub and huddled together, and they came out without a scratch. So just an amazing situation here. Unfortunately, we had the 3 fatalities, but a lot of folks got the warning, and they survived and are okay. And, of course, you can replace the homes and the material things. Alex?
Yeah, you said it. So key, having that place of shelter, and glad those folks were able to get to those locations. Thanks so much. Well, that's where we find our very own meteorologist, Mike Seidel, joining us now from Bassfield, Mississippi. Mike, damage all over, just a surreal scene.
Yes, this is outside of town. We had 3 fatalities across the street. We showed you that earlier at the cafe, Mama D's Cafe. And what they've been doing here is trying to get this road open. This is a road, and what we're told, there are houses back there, and they've been in contact with the people. I talked to one gentleman earlier. That's the only information I have. But it's taken them about an hour to go from here to there, which is not very far. Trees down everywhere. And these are mostly pines. This is a very piney area of southern Mississippi. We're about a half an hour off to the north and northwest of Hattiesburg and Laurel to give you a sense of where we are in the southern part of the state. So, pine trees everywhere, softwood. They come down faster. They don't need as much wind as hardwoods. And look across the street. Stands, just trees sheared, some of them down to the bottoms as far as you can see, looking in the distance. The power company is out here. The problem is they're trying to figure out where the poles were. They're not, it's not visible where the power poles were. And then across the street here, this is Mama D's Cafe. This is where, unfortunately, 3 people lost their lives. Late yesterday afternoon, the tornado touched down here just before 4:30 Central Time, and it was a monster. Another strong long-track tornado came through the same area a little north of here 45 minutes later. I mean, some people have been following tornadoes for years, but to see 3 potentially violent tornadoes coming through the same couple of counties, including Lawrence, over here in Jefferson-Davis County, where we had 4 fatalities in total, it's just incredible, just a very rare situation. And the debris ball on this one, based on Doppler radar, went up to 20 to 30,000 feet in the atmosphere. Luckily, we have good weather today. The National Weather Service, who worked overtime, Alex, yesterday in Jackson, Mississippi, they've got 3 survey crews out looking at these tornadoes around the area, up to the north of Yazoo City, and then you've got these down here, these 2 long-track supercells that were on the ground for quite a while late yesterday afternoon. Alex?
All right, thanks so much, Mike. Seidel, they're live in Bassfield, Mississippi. Good that